We'll call the Blue Earth County Board of Commissioners meeting to order. The first thing we'll do, first order of business, is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, our first order of business will be agenda review. Is there any additions or corrections, Bob?
Mr. Chair, there are no changes to the agenda today.
I'll move the agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Commissioner reports. Will, we're going to start with you this morning.
Okay, on the 6th we had a department head meeting, kind of the first one of the year, and got things going. Then on the 7th I had SWCD meeting, and again, kind of an organizational meeting for those folks. And then on the 11th I had the Brown County Evaluation Center meeting. Again, talked about the year to come. We had a good year last year. Wound up putting some money in the bank, so things have moved along well there. And then also on that day I attended the Investigators Conference at the Civic Center down there. The local group of investigators put together a annual conference. They had 350 people there from around the state, and they talked about pertinent law enforcement issues. Didn't realize how much had changed in the 10 years I've been out, but good training opportunity, allowed me to keep some continuing education credits going. Of course, then on the 12th we had the work session, and 14th we had mayors and clerks down in Mapleton at their new restaurant down there, and that was good meeting there, good attendance. And then on the 15th I had the AMC directors meeting. Not a lot of information there. I think Jack Kolar sent out an email to everyone regarding the content, so I won't go over it again, but that's my report.
Thank you, Will. Mark?
Okay, yep, we had department heads 6th January, and then I had my Beyond the Yellow Ribbon on the 7th of January. They had would eventually have a little bit more routine where we have general group meetings, and some of the people with Beyond the Yellow Ribbon are looking at taking over that chili feed that they've had at the Buster's, you know.
Was that the last one they said they announced last time?
Yeah, and so they're seeing if they can do that for future. Then on the 8th, that Friday, had Cimeric's Joint Powers with Recycling meeting along with the solid waste, and that was in Austin at the government center there. And then the 12th, the work session, then mayors and clerks, of course, on the 14th, and that really concludes. Did note the I did do the visitation down there in Mapleton for the for Lester Anderson. That was interesting.
Yeah.
Got there, and yeah.
How many years was he commissioner?
40 years.
Was it 40?
40 years.
That's amazing.
So he was.
Amazing you got somebody spent 40 years doing this job.
Well, that's gonna be Kip, I think, for sure. I don't know.
Well, there's something in that district blood or something. They last a while. Yeah. That concludes my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mark. Vance?
All right. Well, on January 6th, I went with Mr. McDermott to a press release for the Sexual Exploitation Task Force that was up in St. Peter. It's interesting to see what our region is doing to stop the sexual exploitation of children and girls in this area. Then we had a department head meeting, and then I went to St. Peter for the Highway 169 mobility study, which was an inner-city bus study, talking about getting bus service between here and the Twin Cities, and connecting it up with the busing that's already here, the city of Mankato, St. Peter's, and then if we have the Tri-County bus service, get that all interconnected. It was a good meeting. January 7th, I had my first library board meeting, so I got that started. great to meet all the people there down at the library and the library board. And then I had a Highway 169 executive board call-in, which was basically to get ready for the next week. January 12th, we had a work session. I had a Children's Museum board meeting, and then I went to a wake for George Sugden, which George was just an amazing person that really was a mentor and to a lot of people. He was a retired bank president from what was Norwest Bank back then, but it was Wells Fargo now. And then after retirement from being a bank president, he decided to be a part-time police officer. And he rode with me a lot, and he had a lot of good things to say about George. January 13th, I had a Habitat Executive Board meeting, and then a Community Corrections Advisory Board meeting. And the 14th, I had a NACO Central Region call-in. I know Drew was on that too. And then a Minnesota Transportation Alliance meeting, where they decided that I had to become a secretary of their board. So I'm on the executive board of that right now. And then the Highway 169 corridor meeting at Walmart, where we did a tour of Walmart. We had a lot of people. We probably had 25, 30 people there from the corridor, all the way up by Burnsville, all the way down. Good meeting, and that's the end of mine.
Thank you, Vance. Drew?
Okay, yeah, we met, of course, on January 5th. That was our first organizing board meeting for the county, and we did pass a resolution there that was very important for this year. That Will worked on the language, so we've got the ground squirrel worded properly. So that's the 13 line ground squirrel.
And it continues.
It continues. And then we raised the bounty a little bit, so they're all the same. They're $1 each. That was some pretty important stuff, but it's got to be done. On January 5th also, I attended the Greater Mankato Growth Business After Hours at Laurel's Edge. And they had a lot of people there that work in long-term care.
I forgot that one. I guess we met each other there. So.
Yeah, you were there, Vance.
Yeah.
And the director of that organization too was spoke, and it was a lot of people that devote themselves to helping our elderly, and so I thought it was pretty nice to meet some of them. And then department heads the next day, of course. And that same day, then I met with Sam. I can't think of his last name. He's the ag Ziegler, Sam Ziegler up at Greater Mankato Growth. He and I had a meeting to talk about some issues related to this region developing into that ag innovation, and talked a little bit about Mark Ritchie, because Mark Ritchie's working in ag, former Secretary of State. He's up at the University of Minnesota. He's, I think, teaching a little bit, and he's also part of a pushing forward ag in the state. So then Thursday the 7th, Highway 14 partnership in Owatonna, and we talked about some of our legislative policies and just a little bit of wording changes and what direction do we want to go this year for emphasis. Representatives representing Klobuchar and Walls and others were there, and we passed our budget for the year and did the business that needs to be done for the Highway 14 partnership, and they've done a good job, I think. And we really feel that this year is an important year, that we can get the message out for budgeting and for getting the corridors for commerce funded, you know, and things like that. So we're trying to put an emphasis on that this year. On the same day, I met and I drove back to Blue Earth County and Nicollet County Safe Roads Coalition, and did our first meeting of the year there. Talked a lot about the Joyride, which we talked about at the Mayors and Clerks. Remember that? Mm-hmm. So we're trying to see how we can kind of get this off the ground to provide sober cab rides for events only at first. Some towns have a Joyride available, or sober cab, like Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights, especially if they have a university in their town. to help with some of the issues of driving under the influence of alcohol and make it safer for people. And then on the 8th, Renewable Energy Task Force, and there was a gentleman there, I just want to mention this if it's okay. Sorry if I'm taking a little extra time, but Josh Fiala. And he's a broker. And what he's working with, it's a device that's been developed and patented. And if you look at an electronic signal, there's, you know, it has a polarity to it and it goes up back and forth. And there's some things that go outside that normal wave pattern in the electricity that is waste, and it bounces back into the line, and it's a wastefulness. And it costs the receiver extra money. So they've developed this magnetic coil. It's not very big. And you plug it in on different various boards of your circuit breakers, and it can save from 10 to 30% of your electricity. It's really something that's almost unbelievable, but we had some good scientific people there, and looking at polarity and looking at what they call harmonic noise in the line. And I think that any factories in the area or any places that have more motors running and that sort of thing, it can really save a lot of electricity. So that's a huge breakthrough, I guess I would say, for something new. Then on the 11th, I volunteered at Holy Grounds. I've been doing more of that lately. They need some people to help out down there for the homeless people in our community and people at risk that just come in, just keep warm, get something to eat. We had our county board work session on the 12th. 13th, Region 9 full commission meeting, and that was our organizing meeting, so to speak, for the year too. Scott Peaton, if you know him, he works there. He gave a good presentation on TZD. He's been an EMS type guy for many years and really understands the ins and outs of that. And then the 14th, NACO Central Regional call, and the reason Vance knew I was on there is because I think I was the only one that spoke up almost throughout the whole call. It was about a 14-minute call, kind of short, and mostly just covered NACO's scheduling for what's coming up, especially our LEDGE conference. And then I like to always give a little plug for if there's any county out there, because I think it's important for counties to go to the AMC and NACO gatherings, because you can pick up one piece of information that can save your county possibly millions of dollars. And so when I hear a lot of back talk, or what do you want to call it, rumblings about it's too expensive to go to these things, I don't know if you can afford not to go to them, because if you can pick up something to bring back to your county that can save dollars or generate a better service to the people, I think it's well worth it. So I always talk about how to go to a conference on the down low, which means finding reasonable priced airline tickets if you need them. Mine I got, I think, were $250 this year, and round trip to Washington D.C. And I found a hotel for, I think with taxes it's $120. So just to kind of, sometimes I like that challenge of trying to see what I can do for the down low. Anyway, then on let's see, mayors and clerks, of course, at Maggie J's, a new restaurant down in Mapleton. It was a good meeting down there. Holy Grounds again. Land Stewardship Project. I went over to New Ulm over the weekend on the 16th. And is anybody here familiar with that group, Land Stewardship Project? They kind of support locally grown foods, smaller farm, family farm, you know, that kind of thing. So we talked about, you know, what can we do to keep certain things in the Farm Bill, the National Farm Bill, to support conservation, farming, and that sort of thing. Some of the programs they have to help incentivize farmers to implement some of the conservation practices that are best practices today. Martin Luther King Day yesterday, Holy Grounds met with a woman named Claudia. I'm trying to think of her last name, I'm sorry I don't have it here, but she works for an organization that is working on national policy, and maybe Mark knows something about this, but you know, sometimes my eyes kind of glaze over when I hear about these things, but it was sort of like a carbon tax. But instead of doing it where the carbon is being emitted into the air, this group is working on a simple fee, levy, or tax where it's produced. So that would mean on coal, gas, like propane or whatever, and oil. And then that fee would be given back to every resident on their W-2s or wherever you file, every year. And so what it does is it drives carbon-based fuels up a little bit, which then incentivizes people to, in the markets, to put more energy and investing in our renewables, which we're trying to do right now. And everybody would be eligible for this thing, and I guess it's got some popularity, and will be presented, I believe, this year, so, as an option. Trying to think. Lincoln Park Neighborhood Association meeting last night I attended for our neighborhood, so,
Nice.
yeah. Talked with the city a little bit about snow plowing practices and things like that, so. That's about it. Thank you very much.
Alrighty, thank you, Drew.
Yeah.
I will do my report in a few minutes. I have a couple things to add, but it is 9:15, so we'll bring Mr. Josh up from Community Corrections. Morning, Josh.
Morning, Josh.
Morning, Josh.
Commissioners.
Morning.
All right, thank you for having me on the agenda. Today what we have in front of you is the comprehensive plan, which is required by the Minnesota Department of Corrections. This is the full comprehensive plan, which is done every biennium, and then in between years we do the interim comprehensive plan. If you looked at some of the information, the data in the plan is, if you see, they have us put this plan together in the summer, so it's really hard to get the current data for you. So really what you have is going through 2014. But just a couple things, just wanted to kind of share where we ended up for the end of 2015 is, one thing, if you're looking at our costs, is juvenile detention was a really large cost for us in 2014. We were able in 2014, we got that back to right around budget. 2014 was definitely that anomaly where we had significant high-profile juvenile crime that were EJJ cases that had long-term secure detention. We didn't see that this year in 2015. But as we finished the year in 2015, what we saw, and I think it kind of echoes what County Attorney McDermott has shown, is we saw those increases in our numbers. Over 150 more clients that were opened on our caseloads for supervision. We had 50 more pre-sentence investigations, over 50 more bail studies. So we saw those numbers continuing to rise in 2015. What we're waiting to see is if, again, that's a little bit of an anomaly or if it kind of levels off here in 2016. So if there's no other questions, or if there's questions, I would ask that the board approve the 2016-17 comprehensive plan.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
I got a first and a second. Discussion. Drew?
Just a couple of comments. I know I was going through the plan and trying to understand all of it, because it's, it's an area that I haven't worked in intimately with or anything, but I was wondering what LSCMI means.
That is the level of service case management inventory.
Oh, okay.
So what that is that's our risk needs assessment. So really for clients that are coming through, is we do that LSCMI, a risk needs assessment, to determine what their level of risk is to commit new crimes, and also where their criminogenic needs are, of what we need to focus on them to try to reduce that level of reoffense or recidivism.
Okay, okay. And then the carry guides.
Carry Guides is it's a tool that is used by an individual by the name of Mark Carey, who's actually from Minnesota, was a community corrections director and then a warden here and deputy commissioner, but he has his own business now where he works on evidence-based tools. And so these are guides that we use with our offenders that are really like on thinking reports, on jobs that our agents will do one-on-one with our offenders to try to help them reduce some of their needs within the community.
So almost like a social work program of
It's
some
kind of
sort,
like
or
a treatment modality where we work with them that we can, and they're small, they're really conducted about 5th grade reading level, so we can really work with all of our clientele. We can also use them with our juvenile clientele to work on specific needs. There's some on substance abuse, some things on mental health stabilization, the thinking errors, thinking reports, so just a lot of different areas that we can work with offenders. With our job, it used to be is that if they came in for probation, we referred everything out.
Oh.
Nowadays, with probation, so much is done with the probation officer of trying to make that change with the probation officer in that office setting, not just referring out to outside vendors.
And they found that's best practices.
Definitely a best practice to do that intervention, build that relationship with that client, with that offender, and to do that change work with them and not just referring it out.
Then MITI. Coding.
Coding, really what that is regarding motivational interviewing. Motivational interviewing is a practice of doing that interviewing with clients to get them to make that changes on their own. And that MITI is the coding technique that actually we code the conversations that the probation officer has with the client to make sure that the probation officer is eliciting that type of change talk and having that communication that's going to be most effective in creating change for them. So it's really a coding system to make sure the agents are properly interviewing the
So
clients.
instead of writing a big long paragraph about it, it's just a code that kind of might say where they're at in their own motivational ability or.
Yeah, it's really an ability.
In their heart to
Yeah.
make some changes maybe.
So it's basically like a 30-minute tape, and you kind of code that if they're doing correctly. We have an internal individual that does that coding, and we can also use an outside vendor to do some of that coding as well, determine the
So
quality.
there's
of that.
training that goes on in order to be able to do that.
Significant amount of training that goes for our probation officers to be able to be effective at motivational interviewing. Some have it very naturally, some takes more work,
Yeah.
but we also look at the type of caseload somebody might work with based on their skill level and how effective they are at that.
Okay. And then EJJ juveniles?
EJJ juvenile, that's
Just
when we
giving you a hard
refer...
time here.
No, that's okay, that refers to the extended juvenile jurisdiction juveniles. Typically, juveniles can be on supervision up until their 19th birthday. If somebody is designated EJJ, that would mean it would be a more serious offense, which if they were, typically if they were an adult, they could go to prison for that offense. And so if it's EJJ supervision, they can be on juvenile supervision up until their 21st birthday.
Okay.
So it just gives us a little bit longer time to work with them in the juvenile system, which is also a benefit for the juvenile, and we hope for the community to give them
Yeah.
that services younger before they age out
And
of the
that's
juvenile
probably
system.
evidence-based too then, isn't it? I mean, because we've seen people who are, let's say, 19, 20, but they're maybe in some ways functioning at 15, 16. I mean, in some, when you look, when you're working with
Definitely,
them.
and there's a lot of, growing research on brain development, that brain development isn't really fully functionable until 25 years old. So if
Yeah.
you think if someone is not really fully developed in their decision making until 25, it does give them an opportunity.
Okay.
All right, any other questions for Josh? I got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Josh.
Thank you,
Good
Josh.
Josh.
Okay, we'll move on to Environmental Services, Mr. Scott Fickner. Got several items for us today. Morning, Scott.
Morning, Scott.
It's like a heat wave out there today, isn't it?
Yeah, it's nice. Actually, walking across wasn't bad. As the chairman said, we have several of items for you. They're pretty much administrative, and you've seen most of them before, but we bring them to you for updates and so on. Tab 7 of your packet is the agreement between Blue Earth County and Xcel Energy. This is to extend the fluorescent bulb recycling program through 2016. The recycling program includes collection for assistance for both residents and businesses, and Blue Earth County residents can bring their fluorescent bulbs to Blue Earth County Household Hazardous Waste Facility, so we're working with Xcel for that. We collect, store, and recycle the bulbs during our normal operations. Xcel then pays 86% of the recycling costs for the lamps that are collected, and that 86% represents their service area within Blue Earth County. Also a business collection, bulb collection for the Xcel service area where they use our facility, and for a one-day-a-year collection, they will collect 10 bulbs from each of the businesses for free, and then businesses can pay for the additional recycling beyond that. Blue Earth County and Xcel have operated this program successfully for the past 21 years, and there have been no changes in the agreement. And the recommendation would be for county board approval of the agreement between Xcel Energy and Blue Earth County to continue the fluorescent bulb recycling program.
I'll move the
Second.
proposal.
Got a first and a second. Discussion?
Good program.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I
All in
think-
favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you. Tab 8 in your packet is the 2016-2017 Natural Resources Block Grant Agreement. This is between Blue Earth County and the Minnesota Board of Water and Soil Resources. This is an annual non-competitive grant agreement for all counties. It provides some of the funding to assist counties in administering several programs, including the water planning, subsurface sewage treatment systems, septics, shoreland ordinance, and our Wetland Conservation Act. The grant amount this year is, or for 2016, is for $60,110. It requires a local match of $42,954. It includes a required pass-through of $5,000 that goes to the Soil Water Conservation District. This is for their assistance in our Wetland Conservation Administration program, and so we pass that through. The grant has been in place for over 20 years. Only 2 changes from the previous grant. The amount has been reduced beginning in 2016 because the legislature removed the feedlot portion of the Natural Resources Block Grant and put that under the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. So that will be a different agreement with them. And then counties now have 120 days to transfer the money to the SWCD rather than the 30 that had been previously. The recommendation would be for the county board approval of the Natural Resources Block Grant Agreement with the Board of Water and Soil Resources.
Move to approve.
Second.
Got a first and a second, discussion? Drew?
So this just is just a small amount
Yes.
of really what it costs for us to provide those services to the county. I mean, we've got, I don't know how many full-time staff that work on these issues. How many do you think there is, your estimate?
There's about, between these programs, we probably have about almost 3 full-time
Yeah.
employees.
And that, so this is just a very small,
Right,
it helps
yes,
manage the programs we've been doing every year.
right. This has been in place for a long time, but over years it has shrunk like most state funding sources, and it doesn't cover a whole lot of what we do now.
It'd be interesting to hear, you know, with the septic issues that we were facing out there in the Rapidan Township, how many hours our staff have helped work on those plans. I don't know what, I mean, is it possible to even come up with an estimate of how many hours that would take to, or we've already put in just for that alone?
That would, we dealt with that between the funding source that the board was involved with and the on-site and so on. There were months of work on that for 1 FTE cumulative.
Oh, yeah. I just thought I'd point it out.
Right, yep.
Well, it went on for several years.
It's been going on for several years, if you're to add up all those hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you go back, we've been working on that, Commissioner Purvis and I have met at least a decade ago
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
those people. And it's been going on for probably the better part of 20 years
Wow, so.
for that.
So-
But it is very near completion. Everything is going well.
Wonderful. Be good to hear an update, you know, on that
Mhm.
sometime, so, thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you. The third thing I have for the board today is the tab 9. It's an amendment to an existing Clean Water Grant, Clean Water Fund grant agreement between Blue Earth County and the Board of Soil, Natural and Water Resources to develop a comprehensive wetland protection management plan. We've discussed this plan at several board meetings. The proposed amendment would revise 2 portions of the current grant. It would extend the deadline for completion of the wetland project for 1 year, mainly so that it would coincide with the county water plan completion that is due at the end of 2016. It would also revise the grant budget to reflect the actual expenditures that we have for that grant. The county water plan update is currently being developed and will require public input, state review, and approval by the county board, and adoption. Most of the grant agreement requirements have been completed already, but Bowser, the Board of Water and Soil Resources, is recommending the grant agreement to extend the period for the wetland plan to December 31st, 2016, so that it does coincide with the water plan. Merging the public and state review opportunities and approval process for the 2 plans would be more efficient and easier for both citizens and state agencies to understand the working relationship between those plans. The second revision of the grant amendment would be to reflect actual expenditures. When the grant was first given to us, it was for $108,000, and it initially was shared with Watonwan County. Due to staff changes, Watonwan County was unable to participate in the project, and so our actual costs are $65,000. The work plan budget for that grant will be reduced to reflect that annual project budget. The recommendation for the county board would be approval of the amendment of the 2012 Clean Water Fund Grant Agreement Amendment with the Board of Soil and Water and Soil Resources.
I'll move the approval of the amendment.
Second?
Got a first and a second, discussion?
So then both of these will be all projects we're working on. We had that deadline extended for our water plan.
Correct.
And we are gonna be able to meet that, do you think, by
Yes,
December?
in fact, the wetland plan is actually done and the draft was submitted by the end date for the grant. But the Board of Water and Soil Resources suggested that because they're both coming out together, it would be better for everybody to have comments at the same time.
Oh, okay. And those comments are pooled. Does the board get to see those at all, or is it just your department reviews them, or what?
We will review them, but they will be public meetings for the most part. There will be some done on the website. We'll have a web address for people to comment on and so on. So the board certainly has access to those comments.
Oh, okay, thank you.
We'll probably have a workshop towards the time when it's ready for approval as well.
Oh, okay.
Any other questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Scott. Have a good
Thanks,
day.
Scott.
All right, it's 9:30. We'll move on to planning and zoning. We got Mr. George Leary and Mr. Stubbs here to present the
Hi,
staff
George.
report.
Good.
Morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I think we're ready, George.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. PC 02-16 is a request from the Donna Jean Sharp Trust for review and approval of the final plat of the Sharp subdivision, a subdivision plat consisting of one lot and two outlots. The property is located in part of the northwest quarter of the southeast quarter and in part of the northeast quarter of the southeast quarter of Section 15, Sterling Township. The property is zoned conservation and agricultural and includes an area within the Shoreland Overlay District of Rice Creek. Mr. Stubbs presented the staff report. The applicants were present and had no additional comment. There was no public comment and little discussion by the Planning Commission. Following the discussion, the Planning Commission voted unanimously to forward a recommendation of approval of the request to the County Board, and the board action is the resolution.
Thank you, Aaron. This is a public hearing, so anyone wishing to comment on PC 0216, please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Anyone wishing to comment on PC 0216, please step forward. Last call for anyone wishing to comment on PC 0216. Seeing and hearing no public comment, I'll bring it back to the board.
Move to approve.
I got a first and a second. Any discussion or questions?
I didn't hear that one.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll move on to the second one.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. PC 34-15 is a request from John and Ann Fry and Ecoplexus Incorporated for review of a conditional use permit to construct and operate a large solar energy system. The proposed project will span an estimated 40 acres and will have a power capacity of up to 5 megawatts, which by Blue Earth County standards classifies it as a large energy system. The property is zoned agricultural and is located in the eastern half of the southeast quarter of Section 15, Lincoln Township. Mr. Stubbs provided the Planning Commission with an update of the proposal. He advised the Commission that the applicants had submitted a request for an extension of the review period of the proposal and that the project be reviewed for a 40-acre site. Mr. Stubbs advised the Planning Commission that the County Board took this under advisement and has remanded the proposal back to the Planning Commission to review the updated 40-acre project. The property owner and applicants were present. A concerned citizen asked how the development might impact the taxation of the property. It was suggested that his question might better be directed to the assessor's office. The applicant did provide some information on the property tax implications. The owner of the project site advised the Planning Commission that he had talked with a neighbor that originally had concerns regarding stray voltage. He indicated that the individual conveyed to him that his earlier questions and concerns had been answered and that he is now supportive of the proposal. A concerned citizen asked what impact the project may have on county ditch system. He was informed that there would be limited grading of the site and that a stormwater pollution prevention plan would be required to address potential stormwater issues. There was no other public comment. Following the discussion, the Planning Commission voted unanimously to forward a recommendation of approval of the request to the county board, and the board action is the resolution.
Thank you, Aaron. This is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to comment on PC 3415, please step forward and state your name and address for the record. Anyone wishing to speak on behalf of PC 34-15? And last call for anyone that would wish to speak on behalf of PC 34-15, please step forward. Seeing and hearing none, I'll move it back to the county board.
Move approval.
Second.
Got a first and a second, discussion.
I just had a question.
So, go ahead, Drew.
I remember this came forward once before.
Yep.
And you mentioned that, and there was, went back to the planning and zoning. So the scope originally was something smaller, and then it was proposed for something larger, right?
Yes, sir. Originally, it was 28, maybe .6 was, there was some discrepancy in what the request was versus what was shown on the site plan.
Okay.
And so, at that original meeting, the applicant said that no, that it was their intention to apply for a 40-acre, and so that's why it got remanded back to the planning commission.
Okay. And hence, since then, now it's approved as a 40-acre.
Yes, sir.
Site. Okay. Just wanted to get the layman part of it.
Sure.
Make sure it was.
Any other questions or comments? I think it's very encouraging that we're getting these solar plants going in Blue Earth County, so I appreciate the efforts of the landowners and the staff that are working on this. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Aaron, George.
All right, we're gonna have to keep right on going into drainage inspector's report.
Morning, Casey.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Casey,
Craig.
how are ya?
Morning, Craig.
All right.
Chuck, you just wanna join us? Just wanna join us up here, Chuck? Thank you.
Yeah, we'll let you up here, Chuck.
Go ahead, Casey.
Okay, for inspection report, we just have CD 56, the removal of a beaver, and then also the beaver den and dam, once the beaver is removed.
Okay, motion to approve?
So move to approve.
Got a first and a second. Discussion, questions?
How do they remove the beaver, do you know?
Go ahead.
Okay, we trapped the beaver.
With a beaver trap?
With a beaver trap, yeah.
Casey does that on the weekends.
Yeah.
Fun.
But what I mean is, it's a trap that's not a live trap. It's-
Not a live
It kills them.
Yeah.
I was just curious.
Any other questions?
And then you blow the dam up?
Not in town, no, we're not going to.
Oh, it's
We've
in
never
town,
used
yeah.
dynamite since I've been here. We usually, but it's very accessible by an excavator.
Okay.
At a particular location, so it shouldn't,
I've seen that done before, so it's
yeah, but no, we haven't done it.
kind of fun to watch, actually.
Any other questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Next, we have Chuck Brandel here to talk about the bid opening for CD 28.
Morning, Chuck.
Thank you. Good morning. We received 3 bids on Blue Earth County ditch number 28, and we had an alternate bid on this project. As the Drainage Authority approved it, typically our projects, we use HDPE dual wall as is what is installed on most of the projects. There is a newer product for pipe. It's called polypropylene. It's a little stronger material. So we did an alternate bid where we had polypropylene or concrete pipe as the base bid and HDPE as the alternate bid, which is how we estimated it and how you approved it. I'm hoping to get some very good pricing. We did not get the favorable pricing on the polypropylene, but we did get a favorable bid on the HDPE. So we had 3 bids. No local contractors bid on the project. It is a very tough project from the standpoint of poor soils. I think the local contractors understood that. So we got 3 bids. The low bid for the polypropylene / RCP option was H&W Contracting out of Sioux Falls. They did not submit a bid alternate. The second low bidder on the base bid was Vortex Drain Tiling out of Grand Forks, North Dakota. They did submit a bid alternate. The original estimate that was approved as part of the final report was just under 1.9 million. There were a few items that were added for repairs on the system that got the estimate up to just under $2 million for the improvement and repairs. The bid came in at $1,985,000 for the alternate. Based on that, it's very close to the estimate that was approved. We'd recommend Vortex Tiling with the HDP option. I wanted to come here just to explain that we did have an alternate. The polypropylene pipe is thicker, it is a stronger material, so if we would have gotten favorable bids on that, we would have recommended that. But since the bid for that was $300,000 over what landowners had, what you had approved, we'd recommend the alternate bid, which is Vortex Tiling. We have not worked with them before. They are a newer company. I did ask them for some references. I got a hold of a engineer that's working with them in Grant County on approximately $1.5 million project with some larger pipe. He said that their work was being done well. Based on that, we'd recommend Vortex be awarded the project.
Move to approve.
Got a first, do I have a second?
Second.
Got a first and a second, discussion?
The difference between the first base bid and the alternate bid is the
Pipe material,
pipe material.
correct.
And you're saying that the base bid, that pipe material is a better material?
It's a thicker, stronger material, and the plastic pipe is dependent on how well it's put in. So the HDPE pipe will meet the requirements for the depth and compaction and things on this project. Because there's poor soils, we did look at an option that would take some of, call it potential contractor error out with a stronger material. And hoping that maybe some of the local contractors would get a little bit better pricing and be able to use that material, but we did not get that.
Okay, and the difference between the two is around 300,000. I'm sure that the landowners would appreciate not having to pay that.
Correct. And we had told the landowners in meetings, I'm not sure if it was mentioned in a hearing, that we were gonna use dual wall pipe. So it's not, it shouldn't be a surprise to them that type of material is going in.
How many acres is the watershed on this again? I can't remember.
3,800.
Okay.
And you guys will have somebody on site making sure the pipe's installed properly?
Correct. And we'll have somebody on site for most of the pipe, most of the deep pipe excavation. It probably will require some dewatering. Vortex has told me preliminarily they'd like to start in about 4 to 6 weeks and try to work when it's cold because of the poor wet soils. I don't know if they'd be able to get it all done this spring, but at least they're understanding that.
Would that be amazing?
If they got it all done this spring, yes.
Yeah, that'd be
Yep.
pretty awesome.
It would be,
Yeah.
because then we wouldn't have to worry about crop damage.
Any other questions?
So your original estimate then on there was about, it looks like, if I'm correct here, is it 1.281, is that what it was? Almost 1.3.
No,
What was your estimate?
the estimate that was approved for the improvement was just under 1.9 million. But after there were some repairs that were included. There were a couple culverts that needed to be replaced on the open ditch that weren't part of the improvement. When we added those costs in, that brought it up to just under 2 million. So we're within 13,000 of our estimate.
So H&W Contracting is omitted from because they didn't do the alternate bid?
Yes.
So you're taking you're recommending the Vortex drain tiling?
Correct.
Okay.
And
I
I've
was
talked to
confused.
both contractors, and they're well aware and okay with the recommendation.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. We'll get a contract put together and have a pre-construction meeting when they're ready to start and invite all the landowners.
Sounds
Thank you,
good.
Chuck.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Resolution to cover deficit cash balances.
Yes, in accordance with Minnesota State Statute 103E.655, it is Blue Earth County policy to advance funds from the general fund to cover deficit balances in the ditch fund. This is done by resolution every January. At today's meeting, we are requesting that the board move to advance $426,395.96 from the general fund for that total, to the ditch funds to cover deficit cash balance in the following ditches, which we have listed on the resolution. This advance is repaid at a 4% interest as the funds become available in the individual ditch funds.
move to approve. Second.
Questions, comments? Seeing none, all...
Costs a lot to take care of ditches.
Yeah. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Very good.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think we'll just move right into Mr. Clausen for the Human Services Report. We also got Jay joining us today. Welcome.
We're gonna have the Jay Show today.
The Jay and Phil.
The Jay and Phil Show.
Notice who's first.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning, all. How are you?
Good.
Good. Glad to hear it. Mr. Chair, Commissioners, I have several action items to bring to your attention and then some administrative items and some discussion items. The first section is financial assistance. We have two contracts coming for your attention and approval. First of those, AMV. This contract provides transportation services for medical assistance participants. It is a renewal contract. The reimbursement is received back through the Department of Human Services for the expenses we incur. The term is January 1st of 16 through December 31st of 16. Second one, also under financial assistance, Lingual One. The purpose of the contract is to provide interpreting and translation services to help access services through the Human Service Department. It is a renewal contract. Rates have increased $1 from $31 to $32 for interpreting that lasts more than 1 hour in duration. Also a $1 increase for sign language from $97 to $98, and from $1.16 to $1.25 per minute for phone interpreting. These rates are raised in order to get to industry standard, and the rates are in compliance with medical assistance reimbursement as well. The term January 1st of 16 through December 31st of 16.
Mr. Chair, can I ask you a question about that?
Sure.
On the Lingual One, I know we've been using that a long time, haven't we?
We have.
And we use it for all kinds of languages.
Yes, right. So Language Line is really our primary service through the state, and that's every language that's available. So they
Yeah.
have a complete network, and then we use independent local contractors, which Lingual One is one of those, to try to augment that and have people be on site and other things like that.
And how's it working out?
Really good. Yeah, yeah. No, it's really working out well.
Sometimes it might be a little
Mhm.
frustrating, but I didn't know.
It is, you know, and I think it's not easy work, and it's the coordination, as you can imagine. Once you know the language, that's not the difficult part. It's coordinating getting there, or the phone call, those types of things. And that's why, to be really frank, the Language Line is very convenient, but it's not as personal. And
No.
so we prefer to have people face-to-face if we can, and that's why we have local vendors.
Do you see some issues sometimes within the Sudanese population, the Noor, and that, that's kind of...
Yeah, I think Somali, Sudanese, but those are the folks that we really want to try to get face-to-face with. It just feels like it works a lot better, and so Fardosa and those types of folks have helped us out with that a lot. We're looking to expand contracting with some of those folks as well.
Yeah. I know you put them together, but Sudanese are quite different from Somali, so...
That's right.
I mean, I don't know, I was just curious. I was asking mostly about the Sudanese.
Okay.
Because I think that they have unique issues within their language, and I didn't know if that's been... Is it, it's difficult?
Yeah, I haven't heard that be a special population that's more difficult than the others, no.
Really?
Mm-mm.
Okay. All right.
I just had a question on the first one, on AMB there, how many is it changed yearly? Is it the numbers of people using the services, for, transportation? Are they, I don't know what kind of numbers you have.
Yeah, it's a very fair question. I have to say that my answer is based on the fact that I, again, haven't heard, and so it might be that I don't know, but usually if there's a huge increase or a decrease, we'd be aware of it. So I think it's a pretty stable number that we serve in the transportation
hundred
areas.
or how long?
Yeah, and it depends, we have, between Vine and AMV and
Mhm.
others, taxis, it's probably a hard measurement, to be honest, but
That's what I was
it's
just kinda
definitely
looking
hundreds
at.
for sure,
Okay,
yeah.
I was just trying to figure if there was a way to
Mhm.
figure it out. Or
Yeah, it's a very good question,
Okay.
Commissioner.
Thank you.
Especially since we're talking about transit issues.
Yeah, it's kind of
Yeah.
going over that.
Yeah, no, I don't know if we've ever looked at it in aggregate like that, so we should do that. Public Health Unit Administrative Services for Child and Teen Checkup. This contract is with Department of Human Services to have Blue Earth County engage outreach for children birth through age 20. These are eligible participants, are medical assistants, individuals, and we ensure that they receive health and medical services to really, deal with some of those barriers, language being one of those, transportation, which we were just talking about both of those, and any other barriers that come up as well. The funding for this grant has increased from $138,595 to $152,746, which is 10% increase from the 15 funding cycle. Funding is based on the number of children eligible for MA that reside in Blue Earth County, so that's how we get reimbursed. And the term is January 1st of 16 through December 31st of 2016. The next section, administration, a couple of unique items here. We usually bring advisory committee appointments to your attention for approval. Here we have Kathy Oberly to join the Mental Health Task Force. She is a resident of Blue Earth County District 2, so ask that the board
Good
would...
area.
Yes, definitely. Ask that the board would approve her application. This next one's a really important one, I'm sure, to all of us. Letter of appreciation that was filled out. Staff brought this to my awareness. Al and Mary Richter of Mankato has served in the foster care mission for 27 years, and they're retiring. I actually do not know the Richters personally, but I've heard a lot about them from staff now that we've done this letter, and so I ask that be written up and ask that the board chair might be willing to sign this just to recognize them. And I'm just going to read this for their unselfish a way that they opened their home to over 50 children over 27 years, provided love, care, and high-quality supports for the children they served. A number of children have been adopted by families in our community, which represents some of the most rewarding work that we do. And we thank the Richters for their kindness and respect in their service and support to the infrastructure of our community. So
Did you say they're retiring now?
they are, yes,
That's, that's an amazing,
it really is.
27 years of opening your house to basically anybody that the county deems.
That's exactly right.
That takes a lot of love, a lot of real care. So, yeah, what a great, a letter of appreciation is really a small token that
It really is,
we can
Commissioner.
give.
I told Bob and maybe Commissioner Brunder that I wondered if they'd come and join us, and this is part of me not even knowing them. They're just humble people that do
Yep.
this mission behind the scenes. They preferred not. They said, we'll take the letter, we appreciate your support, but, they're just not about any spectacle at all, just mission, which even makes it more
Wow.
pure and more special. Yeah, it's really, really neat.
It's gonna be a real loss
Yes.
to Blue Earth County
That's
to have
true.
them stepping
Mm.
down, but we really appreciate the years that they spent.
Agree.
That's a lot of kids.
Yeah, it's a lot of kids, and everything, as Commissioner said, from respite, sometimes real emergent short-term needs that you don't even know what you're getting for a day or two, all the way to a child that you really bridge a gap to adoption, which is just really, really something. So, thank you very much, all of you, for your support of that mission and for the Richters. And then finally, a proclamation for the Stepping Up initiative. This is included in your packet, along with a copy of the letter that we asked the Commissioner Brunder to sign for the previous item. This proclamation is really about the Stepping Up initiative, which is a national initiative for our willingness to engage the mental health population in the county jail system. And Mr. Chair, I'm not sure if you want me to read the whole thing or maybe just highlight, walk through it. Is that okay?
Whatever you're comfortable with, Phil.
Yeah, I'll just walk us through this quickly. I think it is important, and actually the proclamation does capture a lot of the mission and a lot of the work that's left to do here. Stepping Up is really all about reducing the number of people with mental illness in the jails. There's estimated 2 million people that have serious mental illness that are in jails throughout the nation. Prevalence rates are 3 to 6 times higher than the general population. 3/4 of the adults with serious mental illness have co-occurring substance abuse disorders, which doesn't surprise us, I'm sure. Adults with mental illness tend to stay longer in the jail and upon release have a higher risk for recidivism. County jails spend 2 to 3 more on adults with mental illness. Without appropriate treatment, people with mental illness tend to cycle back through the criminal justice system. The proclamation takes pride in our responsibility for Blue Earth County to protect and enhance the health and welfare of all of its residents, including these high-risk populations, such as the individuals that are in the county jail. Blue Earth County has engaged in planning efforts to reduce the number of adults with mental illness, co-occurring disorders. We're obviously at the front end of that. We talked about that at department head meeting. And we need to engage a number of our partners as our planning takes shape. The 3 pieces of how we receive individuals, how we do programming, and how we discharge are basically how this effort breaks down. Stepping Up is supported by National Association of Counties, Council of State Government, Justice Center, and American Psychiatric Association Foundation. And they are very big about encouraging the public and private and nonprofit partnership. I'll just end by saying, reading the last part. Let it be resolved that Blue Earth County Board of Commissioners do hereby sign the call to action to reduce the number of people with mental illness in our county jail, commit to sharing lessons learned with other counties in our state and across the county, across the country, to support a national initiative, encourage all county officials, employees, and residents to participate in Stepping Up. It does outline a few more specifics in the proclamation, but I would ask that the county board consider approving this proclamation. And those are my action items for today.
Ready?
Mr. Chair, do we need to do them all? Could we do them all together?
Yeah, I normally do is
I'll second that, and I got a question.
okay, discussion.
The NACO is putting on a Stepping Up initiative. Do you know if there's anybody in your, that you or somebody there is going to that? I've been contemplating signing up myself for that. This is something that we severely need, not only in Blue Earth County, but across the nation. Because of the amount of mental illness in our jails. I know myself and Will have seen this over our careers. Myself, I've have a couple special needs children, and I've been working with special needs for 30-some years. So I can certainly see the issues of that can occur here. Again, is there somebody in your office, or do you know of anybody in the county that's planning on going to that?
Yeah, so we did put in an application. It is part of, we need the proclamation and then the application, so that's submitted. We're not sure how that's gonna go through the filter as far as what gets approved, but there is kind of a prescribed list of who goes. on our planning team and all of that. I think we could certainly, you know, talk about if other people want to attend as well. I know one of our conflicts that Bob and I talked about is it's in April and it's during a board meeting. So that is a real conflict that we're gonna have to maneuver through. I will say, if Commissioner Purvis is okay with this too, that he also put us in touch with another organization out of Texas that he knows this individual that runs this system. And so we've been doing research on that as well. And another thing where we've considered, do we need to make a visit to something, you know, like that, somebody that's already invented the wheel, let's go take
Right.
a look at it, that kind of an idea.
There's also a judge down in Florida that
Right.
is very, very, I'm pretty sure he's talking at the NACO one that he spoke at the symposium, NACO symposium I went to, and amazing information. But thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Commissioner.
NACO has been leading the way on this topic for 10 years that I've been involved with
Right.
NACO, probably longer.
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
Good program.
I
Great.
attended those too, those stepping up
Yeah.
initiatives, I
Yeah.
attended those out, at the annual out in
Mhm.
Charlotte, we had some, and, trying to engage and kind of change the way the system's been operating, it's hard to do that.
That's
Oh, yeah.
right.
Yeah,
It sure is.
so, but it's-
Well, there's a certain discrimination thing going on too with people with mental illness. So there's, you know, it's not only how it's treated once they are in jail, but it's training the officers to recognize it when they initially make the arrest.
Right, exactly.
So that's a huge portion. So we can start treating it before we even put them in jail. You
Right.
know, it's like, oh, there's an issue here.
Right.
So.
All right, any other questions? Got a motion and a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. Maybe just one additional comment on the stepping up piece is, I think we have an opportunity because you've allowed us to build some infrastructure in our psychiatric clinic and our therapy piece. We have chemical dependency, and we want to be pretty aggressive about trying to redo that front end. How we receive individuals from law enforcement, and we have not engaged Mankato Police Department yet, but we see them as primary partners. Certainly, Mr. McDermott's philosophies around how we look at how we charge people will be a huge part of our planning as we get down the road. And then we have to build that whole infrastructure of how do we treat and care for individuals either in the jail, or if we divert them from jail, we better have a very robust plan of how we're going to wrap services around them, and that's actually what we've been working with the Sheriff's Department on at this first juncture. So we'll keep you updated on that significant project. One of the intentions every year was to provide you some programmatic data and give you some sense of the programs we provide to the community. I have two different disciplines that I'm presenting today, Mental Health Center and then also Public Health, a number of their programs as well. And so I'm going to move through fairly quickly. If there's more information or discussion, I'm certainly open to that. The Mental Health Center program summary data in your packet is pretty straightforward. Admissions, you'll see that overall we have a very slight increase in admissions, 360 new patients in 2015, 272 psychiatry, 88 therapy. Average of 30 admissions per month, which is a slight increase compared to 2014. We've had some staffing changes, which, you know, pretty much happens every year, that affects some of our admission data. Scheduled appointments, very similar, 8,767 appointments were scheduled through the Mental Health Center in 2015. And then finally, our no-show rate, right now we're at 19.98, which is a slight increase from previous year of 1.5%, but we're still 5% under the national average, which for the population we serve, we're still very proud of. We do look at that pretty closely and want to use that as an indicator of how we're doing. So, moving on to public health, I have 4 program areas that I'm highlighting. The first of those, Women, Infants, and Children, better known as WIC. We have 3.25 individuals that serve this program, 2 dietitians, 1 part-time support person, 2 part-time nurses. Our no-show rate in this program, which isn't on your slide, has decreased year over year. It started out at 25% in 2013, went down to 20% in 2014, and last year was 16%. So again, it's something that we consider a pretty strong indicator of how we're engaging the people we serve, and seeing those rates go down is really good news. Program description, obviously WIC focuses on nutrition education, breastfeeding program, and helps eligible pregnant women, new mothers, babies, young children learn to eat well, about nutrition, stay healthy. We do education and counseling, provide vouchers for nutritious foods, and make referrals to the community and the network that's available here in Mankato and the surrounding county areas. WIC eligibility is actually slightly above the medical assistance eligibility, so some folks that are working or might only have 1 income in their home do qualify, so that's a little bit higher than usual. We get paid per patient per month. It's $14.75 per person, and that actually allows us to stay pretty non-dependent on levy, so the program is floating pretty well. We expanded some clinic hours in 2015, which helped to increase our participation, which I think was a very smart move by staff. And the only thing I'll highlight as far as the data sets are just those participation rates in the first table. You'll see those are, somewhat flat, but increasing here in the last year. The next slide is maternal child health program, and we have 2 nurses that serve in this program. It equates to about 1.5 FTEs, so they're not full-time dedicated to the program, but again, small staff, big programs, a lot of volume. Maternal child health strives to improve health status of children, women, and their families, and we assess their health needs, direct the nursing services that they receive, and again refer to other resources in the community, especially in the medical community. If you look under we don't have the 2015 data, MDH is still spooling that information up, but we have 14 data for you just to give you some idea of what services we provide. And if you look down the bullet point list, you'll see it really focuses on children with special health care needs, either born with that or develop any kind of disease that needs special attention. The risk of just being young, birth to age 1. We do some adolescent health, and primarily their teen parenting and teen pregnancy program that we run. Early hearing detection, birth defects, lead poisoning, and we also do the DNA collections for parentage for child support. So those are all included in this program. And again, in the table, I'll leave you to look at that, but it breaks out some of those numbers as far as how people are served in those different areas relating to the bullet points that we just looked at.
Mr. Chair, just a quick question
Yeah.
on the clients served under there, the DNA collections, 67 says, that part of that ending with that lawsuit in terms of drawing the DNA from actually wanting to do every child born, and then ended up.
Right. Yes.
Okay. Local lawyers actually were involved. Okay.
Right.
I just thought that was the same.
Yes, that was a very unique case, and no, I have not heard any update on that since it initially broke in the news, and so I'm not sure about the
There's a
status of it.
discretion, whatever, to the parents. Okay.
Right.
I was just thought that was it. But.
Yeah, and in a number of our areas, as you're all aware, the boundary about personal rights and also getting the information we need, especially in healthcare, becomes a very touchy subject for sure.
Okay. Thank you.
You bet. First Steps is the next slide. This funding is a true partnership between Blue Earth County United Way and the Mankato Clinic Foundation for funding. Mankato Clinic and Mayo Health Systems both provide space at no cost to our staff, and so she's co-located there, and we think it's all about location in that regard. And so through that partnership, both funding and practical, as far as being able to be located right in the clinics. We've had a very successful program running here. First Steps really focuses on early intervention with pregnant women and infants through 6 weeks of age, but one of our goals that's not on the slide is we try to engage that parent before the birth, and so 85% of the people we work with we've seen prior to the birth, so we've set the table well, and that's a really important goal. Just highlighting the average caseload, we really have just the one coordinator at this point. She carries 160 to 170 clients, so a lot of individuals. Obviously not seeing all those people every day or every week, but depending on the need and the intensity, adjusts her time to trying to provide as much service as we can. The second table shows the data that looks at the different indicators we look for, risk indicators, and that first bullet under there says that the average family that we serve has 4 to 5 of the risk indicators in table 2 below that are listed out. And so again, multi-need families, multi-risks that, you know, could go either way, and so our point and our purpose is to try to get them to tip the right way and get them all the services that they need that are available. We obviously benefit from an awful rich service set, but sometimes people do not have the information they need to navigate the system, or again, in all of these programs, the barriers of language, transportation, funding, all of those issues.
When you're talking about mental health needs on there, are you talking about the child or are you talking about the parents?
Well, it can be either. That's a great question, Commissioner. I think what we really do, especially in that particular area of First Steps, part of United Way and their funding is that we'll be open to serve people kind of regardless of where they hail from. If they come through our hospital system, we're going to try to help them. Same answer to your great question is, we don't want to care if it's about mom or if it's about baby or about dad. We want to try to give them the resources they need.
Okay.
It's a great question. And that's one of the great things about having that collaborative is that Teresa Freitag, who's our staff, can engage all of the services we have at the county, and she's very well with community services, so she's in a great position to do a lot of referral. Final slide, child and teen checkup. We brought that contract to you earlier in the action items. We really just have one staff here, Jen Horseman, who does our child and teen checkup. It provides outreach to children newborn through age 20. We try to reduce the impact of childhood health problems by identifying, diagnosing, and treating health problems early and encouraging the development of good health habits. I know a lot of these definitions run together, but this one in particular, there's a battery of things that we ask the clinics and the docs to look for, and what we're trying to do is bridge the gap when there's a new birth, make sure the parent engages the right tests and the right checkups so that if there are any concerns that we get on those early. So that's really the mission here. And you'll see, just skipping through the enrollment piece to 2016, that we served 5,764 eligible children, which is an increase of 534 from the prior year, 10% increase. The outreach really is through letters and phone calls or face-to-faces if we need it. We do try to address transportation, again, language, navigating the system, especially with the refugee population. We'll also cross over, this isn't the car seat program, but car seats are a big issue to make sure people are installing them right. So again, a crossover area for people in need. And we get paid $26.50 per child per year in this, so it's not a lot of money, but it is all about trying to connect the dots. And that's what I have for you today.
There's a lot of families I still see around Mankato that don't use car seats, and they
That's
have
right.
little kids in there.
It's really scary stuff.
Lots of them.
I know, it's really scary.
See them at stop signs and jumping around the back and just going crazy, you know.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you, but that's
Any other
sort
questions?
of, just looking through 15 to 16 on the teen checkups on that last part. That's quite a big increase in
Oh, yeah.
over 10%.
Right,
Um,
definitely.
Just
It is.
partly the growth, I guess.
Yes, definitely you see the incremental growth and then sometimes more of a significant blip up as you suggest here. And sometimes that's about our methods too, is if we do send out letters or make phone calls using technology and practicing smart is part of that. We try to look for efficiencies all the time of making the contacts, but some of that is just strictly about population, as you say.
I have a quick
Thank-
question
thank
on
you.
the WIC. Yeah, I know I can't remember what the eligibility is, but just in general, we don't know. Do you know what it is? I mean, is it,
You know, I can't give you the income amount, but I know this is the one that I said was above the MA rate. So these are folks that, I mean, I can describe it without giving you a dollar
Yeah.
figure, is that usually if one of the two individuals are working, they'd still be eligible. So it's a little bit higher than the MA eligibility. And then obviously there's a lot of single parents that we're dealing with, and maybe underemployed individuals, so those
so some
kind of
at-risk
categories.
possible
Definitely.
indicators for helping nurture the mother and the child?
Right. And so, you know, a lot of times I maybe don't emphasize that this is all about the stress of the economics too, of not having the money to connect all the dots. And so that's why these programs are really in place. And so that eligibility will be slightly different from program to program, but all the people we serve have a lot of stress over trying to make ends meet. And that's why with WIC, when they get some nutrition vouchers, they get healthy food and a way to kind of stretch their meal planning for their family. So it's a pretty welcomed and pretty needed service. But yeah, it's probably the step before some of the food shelf stuff that we have and other things like that. But people that kind of need that in that building stage of life where they're trying to find gainful employment, and they might be struggling. Yeah.
I know they had the open house over a year ago, that remodel over there, you know,
Yes,
for WIC in our
yes.
building. And it's pretty nice in there, but
Sure
it's
is.
still adequate space for
It
them?
really is beautiful space to all of you, and I know Bob worked hard on this as well, just to get us back in the same building. I'll tell you, just from a management perspective, it is so much easier for our public health supervisor to be able to be part of that program. It felt so isolated when we were off-site. But then the space itself, as you say, yes, it's working beautifully, and I think we have the right setup. We were able to design that so it fit the mission. It's been a really good thing. I've heard nothing, which from the nurses is a good thing. You don't want to hear anything from the nurses.
I used to guzzle milk, you know, just like a water sometimes. It's affected my behavior a little bit because I looked at, they had bags on board that showed, well, it shows the sugar content, and you don't realize. It has bags with powdered sugar, or granulated sugar.
Yeah,
It's
equivalent.
equal to a glass of milk, and in a bag, it's quite a bit of sugar. And I just was,
I
you
didn't know
don't
that.
think about that.
Wow.
That there's that much sugar in milk.
You think of milk as being a healthy drink.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
it's still healthy, but
Yeah.
there's a lot
Does
of.
it matter what percentage of fat? I mean, it's
It's,
just
I don't know, I just know that there's a lot of, well, lactose, I don't
skim,
know, it's sugar.
skim milk would be.
And, so there's a tremendous amount of sugar in milk, I had no idea.
Wow.
Yeah, I had no idea. So those are educational things that they offer that,
Absolutely.
you know, they're good to know sometimes too.
Any other questions for Phil? Okay. Jay?
Chair, Commissioners, before I give my report, I know Phil has been elected president of, I don't know all the details. Bob, maybe you know the details of what he's been elected to, do you?
Well, it's the Association of Human Service Directors, so Max,
Congratulations.
Oh,
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulate
Yeah,
him.
we suffer because of that.
Yes,
County,
that's right.
what I'm worried
Yes,
about.
that's right. It depends on how you look at it.
Are we around royalty then? Is that, is
We
that
get
the
a
whole-
crown.
Yeah.
Yes, you do. Yes, right.
Thank you for mentioning that, Jay.
Yeah, thanks, Jay.
On a Thursday night, last Thursday, January 14th, the Human Services Advisory Committee met. We also elected Susan Tuzignet as the vice chair. We also had Teresa Friday, I know you're talking about that. She has been in position at First Steps for 3 years. She is located at the Mankato Clinic and works with the patients. It was noted in 2008 that in southern Minnesota only 1/2 of the children were ready for kindergarten. The United Way wanted to improve that. The Mankato area has a lot of resources, but didn't have an easy way to access them. Therefore, First Steps was created along with a coordinator position who could refer people in need to several resources available to them. Under social services, Andrew Peach, he is the Blue Earth County Supportive Housing Supervisor, spoke on long-term and short-term homelessness. Mankato is known as a hub for services for homeless people. Educating the public is the best way to end long-term homelessness. Also, 8 people will be hired in 2016 to assist with the Men Choices assessments. Three will assist with case management and Men Choices assessments. 4 will solely do Men Choices assessments. 1 will be an intake worker. The following people were voted as 2016 leadership for social services. The chair is Christine Nat, the vice chair is Chris Wilkinson, and the secretary is Janessa Baker. Now under mental health, the mental health hired Tina Moogly as the new therapist and clinical supervisor of Rule 79 case management. The crisis center moved to a 24-hour, 7-day-week mobile crisis service effective January 1st of this year. Amy Hedman, who is the MSU professor, spoke to the group about suicide prevention. Ms. Hedman is affiliated with the Hope Restoration Project, which provides education, training, and outreach on suicide prevention. The following people were voted in 2016 leadership for mental health. The chair is Brian Gass. The vice chair is Scott Reefer. The secretary is Jennifer Lormax. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay.
Thanks, Jay.
Yeah, thanks, Jay.
Commissioners, I don't know if Jay said that, but he was re-elected to be our chair too, and so we're really excited to have him back and his willingness to serve unselfishly as well.
Well, thank you, Jay, for that.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jay.
Any other questions for Phil or Jay? Thank you. Have a good
Thank you
afternoon.
very
Thank you all.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have refrigerator magnets, if anybody wants
Oh,
one.
well, let's just take a couple-minute break and then we'll, just get some of them from Phil. All right, we'll call the meeting back to order. We will, I'll finish my report. Anybody else have anything left to add on the reports, or is everybody good?
Everybody's good.
I'll do my report then. After our last meeting, I was also at the department head meeting, which was already mentioned, planning and zoning, which I already got to see that today, so there's no sense reporting on that. Work session, I was up at the Mankato East High School and presented to Miss Robinson's class, to the 2 senior classes on being an elected official and how I got into the business and
Wonderful.
whatnot. I was there with Michael Laban this year, a past council member, and that was actually a lot of fun because he got to talk about the city portion and I got to talk about the county portion. So boys have a good time doing that. Then I met with Amy Thompson, our auditor, and she was going to send all of us an email saying that we had connected, and she just kind of had an initial interview with me as the board chair, and didn't have anything alarming to bring up to her. We just kind of went through the program, what they expect out of our staff and us as commissioners, and what we can expect out of them as this audit moves forward. We've always had a great working relationship with the auditors. Amy I think will do a wonderful job for us this year, so if you have any questions, you can certainly connect with her directly, or feel free to contact myself or Bob if you have any concerns from the commission. I was also at Mayors and Clerks, and Pat did a great job with his presentation, very interesting, and always a lot of good data to hear. Then I was up at a retirement party for someone at MRCI, Becky. She kind of runs the grounds and the buildings and whatnot up there, and she was there for over 40 years.
Becky's retired, really?
Wow. So got to go up and visit with her for a little while, and up there for about an hour and 20 minutes, talking with different people that had retired. Since I've been here, they came back for this retirement party, so it's nice to see some of those people. And then I was also at Les Anderson's wake and funeral. Both of them were very well attended, and he was actually, I wasn't aware of this, but he was actually the president of the National Association of County Commissioners, which I would imagine is NACO today. So he was the president of the State Association and the National Association, and again, I was not aware of that.
Big shoes to fill there.
Yes, there is. He did have an award there from the Association of Minnesota Counties, a real big award that was presented to him in 1985, and I asked the family, I told them that that's a very prestigious award, and it's a very nice award to have, and one of the members of the family said, we're really not sure what we're going to do with it, and I told her that, well, if you want to do something with it, you could donate it to the Historical Society, or I said I certainly would find a place, without talking to the rest of the board, in the county board, in the courthouse for that award, for someone who was on the board for 40 years.
Small space here.
I think that would be very appropriate, and so I gave her my card, and she was gonna let us know, but I just...
Well, they can retain ownership and just loan it.
Yeah.
So I think that'd be a neat thing to have in the courthouse.
Yeah.
But I told her, I said, if you do donate to the Historical Society, we'll take it on loan from them, because I think it should be here, so. Had a nice conversation with them, though. Lester did a great job, and I was still in contact with Lester. He would always call me and talk to me about different things that we had going on in the county, so he will be missed. And then I was also
That
at the...
district creates really good commissioners.
Yeah.
Jeez, don't you?
Last night I was at the Pathfinder Award. MRCI won the Pathfinder Award last night with 3 other winners. The youth was Eleanor Grinner, and then adult was Bud Lawrence, with all the stuff he's done in this community, and then the business was MRCI WorkSource and Brian Benschuf. And so I was up at that program, and they put on a good program up there. They do that, been doing it for 31 years apparently.
Where was it?
Up at MSU this last year. Apparently, from what I talked to, they said it's been all over, different churches, different places, but it was up at MSU, and I thought it was fairly well attended. It looked like a pretty good group.
You were on television, so.
Yeah. Bud was getting some interviews, and so, it was nice to see Bud. I know Bud, I've known him for a long time, so I got to say hi to him. And
He was really the one that helped put together that powwow.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
He talked a little bit about that. And he had
the whole thing.
he had a couple stories last night how he had helped change some different things in the Blue County area.
He and Jim Buckley
Yep.
worked pretty hard on that, and there was another gentleman, I can't think who it was, but for
Well,
sure those two.
Amos,
Amos,
the,
that was the other one he mentioned.
Yeah.
Dakota, yeah.
Yep.
So that is my report. So we will move into some administrative services.
Well, Mr. Chair, the first item is the county board minutes for January 5th.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Next up are the bills for the 2 weeks indicated.
I'll move the bills.
Second.
First and a second, any discussion?
You can't second it, we both harmonized on it.
And he didn't think you could harmonize.
Questions?
I do. Anybody else want to go first or not?
Go ahead.
Okay, just 3 big ones the first week. I'm sure we bought a vehicle. It says vehicle purchase, make it afford $151,918.
It actually is 5 squad cars
Oh.
that the sheriff's department purchased.
Okay. I thought maybe we got some massive truck or something that they ordered. So those were squad cars then that were on the normal cycle that we have set up for replacement?
That is correct.
Are they Fords? I don't know.
I would
Well,
imagine.
think so. What kind of cars are they? you
Probably
know?
Explorers, aren't they?
I didn't
Explorers,
look,
right?
it either be the Taurus or the Explorer.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the MCIT, it's called Central Insurance. I know we've had other fees there too, but, and workers' comp. I was just wondering if you could just give us a little bit on that, Bob.
Those are our annual premiums for the property and liability insurance as well as the workers' compensation insurance. So those are annual dollar amounts.
Have they remained pretty constant?
Yes.
No.
They're, MCIT does a good job of projecting what those costs will be, so, our budget certainly reflects those dollar amounts.
And then on the workers' comp, that's just there just in case, isn't it? I mean, we get something back, don't we, if there's not a lot of issues?
Well, in both these cases, if overall MCIT has good years in terms of claims against those accounts, we oftentimes do see dividends, although they've cautioned counties not to expect those dividends to continue at the level they have in the past. But, the workers' compensation is there in case we have worker injuries that require compensation.
Okay. And then the second week, there's just two I have, the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension. It's an equipment lease for $10,650, and I think I've seen that every year, but I just didn't know, something that we must lease from them.
That's correct. Just trying to find it here. Those are quarterly charges for our mobile data terminals that are in the squad cars,
Oh, okay. Computers, basically.
basically.
Okay, so we don't own them?
No. Well, it's the service so that they can access.
Oh, access to everything.
Yep.
Okay. Independent Emergency Services LLC. Other capital, it was $16,122.
That's part of our E911 project. It says it's IES annual maintenance.
So it must be a recurring expense. Okay, thanks, Bob.
Other questions?
I just
Go
actually
ahead,
have a
Mark.
kind of a comment. I think it's interesting and kind of neat. I saw down here, MSU Mathletics in that first period, as a payment for recipient for $30 to, I assume, participate in that program. And I thought that was just kind of, yeah. I mean, if there's a, there's a need, but I just, kind of interesting with the county how you get into so many, there's a way to help people all over. And that, I don't think I've seen a particular thing like that, because that is a good thing.
Yeah, that's
Who
a
knows?
payment made by the Human Services Department on behalf of somebody they're working with.
But it's in that participating, yeah. It's good. That's all I had.
Any other questions?
I think they've all been
Okay,
covered.
Will?
Forensic Nursing Home, 492 State Hospitals, is that?
St. Peter.
That would be St. Peter.
Okay,
right.
that's what I.
They built that new
Yep.
aging
Okay.
unit.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was. So.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Human Resources.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, item number 3 in your packet is the Human Resources Department agenda. We do have one action item this morning, appointment of Mark Manderfeld as the county assessor for the remainder of 2016. Mr. Manderfeld is replacing Mike Stahlberger, who has been promoted to the Director of Taxpayer Services. The county assessor term is defined in statute for a 4-year period, and so that's why it's just for the remainder of 2016, and then presumably in 17 we'll do another 4-year appointment.
Okay. That's appointed by the board then, or is that?
Yep.
That's correct.
I'll move the,
And second, sorry.
That's right.
And then, some counties, they still elect that, don't they?
That's correct.
They run elections, but this county appoints.
Yes, back in, the early 1990s or something, the Blue Earth County approach the legislature about making those appointed positions. So there was the auditor, treasurer, and the assessor.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
I won't tell you who authored the bill either.
You can?
That was about one of the first ones I authored, yeah.
There's a lot of...
Mark to thank.
Yeah,
Yeah, Mark.
is that right? Thanks, Mark.
You were like about 15 at that time, weren't you?
Yeah, he looked 15, that's all I know.
Thanks.
There's a lot of activity there though, Bob, in the HR there. it looks like.
Let's vote on the, are we done discussing the assessor
Yeah.
appointment? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Informational.
Sure, in the informational, we do have a lot of activity. We do have some resignations, starting with the county engineer. Mr. Forsberg has indicated he's resigning at the end of his current 4-year term, which is April 30th of 2016. That's obviously a significant position, and so we're beginning recruitment to refill that county engineer role. We also had a resignation of a clerical specialist in the Public Works Department, and so we've begun recruitment to refill that position. We've also had resignations of 2 social workers in the Human Services Department and have begun recruitment to refill those positions. We also had a resignation of a custody officer and subsequently initiated recruitment to refill that position. The board has already acted upon Mr. Manderfeld's appointment as a county assessor. We also want to just, for informational items, note that he was promoted to the assistant county assessor to the deputy director of property assessment. So we have then subsequently initiated recruitment for an appraiser 3 as an assessment coordinator role as part of the overall restructuring that's occurring in the Taxpayer Services Department. We did fill a patrol officer as well as a care coordinator in the Public Health Department and a senior account clerk in the Finance Department. And then we have, I believe there's 5 individuals that have completed their probationary periods and are eligible then for a salary adjustment per their contracts.
Okay.
Questions, comments? Drew?
I was just curious, how long has our engineer Al Forsberg been, you know, Bob, about?
I believe he started in 1988,
So,
about 27, 28 years.
oh, okay.
30s.
Pardon?
Is it 27 or 37?
No, 27.
27.
Yeah, he worked in Army Corps of Engineers, I know, for a while too, in his early career.
I believe
Had
that's
some
correct.
experience there and brought some of that experience here to the county, I think, that's what.
Yeah.
I can empathize with him a little bit. When I worked for the state, I was there 28 plus years, and when you walk out the door, you know, it's like, well, who can replace me? You know what I mean? We all are just, we're very individual, you know, it's just, when you've had a position for a long time, you know, and I can empathize with what he's going through. I know he wants to leave the department in good shape when he leaves, and he's, you know, a lot of issues going on within the Public Works, probably thinking, same with when I left the state of Minnesota, you know, you'd think, well, I've been fulfilling this position for so many years, and then all of a sudden the next day you're just done. And it's kind of it's a real interesting transition that you go through, you know, so.
All right.
Okay, any other questions on the human resources? Move on to donations.
Well, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, item number 4 in your packet is the list of donations for the 4th quarter of 2015. Relatively small dollar amounts with the exception of some donations to the summer reading program. I'd just point out in the human services area we have a couple of large dollar amounts there. Those are actually probably classified incorrectly as donations. They probably should be more of a fee, and so talked with the human service director about getting the coding for those donations or those items in the future adjusted. The second page are the in-kind donations as well, and so unless there are any questions, I'd ask the board to accept the donations for the 4th quarter.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Drew?
So, and this is just for 1 quarter then?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, item number 5 is our year-end financial status report. This is a cash basis report, so it is, though, the end of our year. So you'll see that our total revenues were $80,659,000, which is a 1.9% increase over 2014. It is only 89% of our total budget. Some of the impacts there were in our state and federal line items, whereby some of our public works projects did not receive some of the anticipated revenues for projects. The fact that the legislature did not pass a comprehensive transportation bill in the 2015 session, I think contributed to the fact that we came up short compared to our budget. Same is true on the expenditure side. You'll see that our expenditures were $81.9 million. That's a 1.1% reduction from our expenditures in 2014, and totaled about 90% of our estimated budget. Again, those public works projects are, because of their size and the fact that we didn't receive some bonding money for bridge projects, contributed to the variances that you see there. Overall, you know, the net is about a $1.3 million deficit. The board will recall that we had budgeted about a $5 million deficit. Some other factors, though, that contributed to the variance in our estimated deficit is there was a mid-year change in some of our plans for ditch financing. Instead of using fund balance, we did end up pursuing some bonding money that did come in at the end of 2015, which distorts a little bit some of this cash basis reporting. When we get our annual CAFR report, those variances will be adjusted based on accrual information, and so that will give probably a better picture of how our financial outcomes were for 2015. In terms of the enterprise fund, the Ponderosa landfill had almost $5 million of revenues and just under $4 million of expenses, so had an excess there, which then when you turn to the second page, you'll see that our total cash balance is largely unchanged from 2014. So we had a deficit in our regular operating funds and an excess in the enterprise fund, which basically washed out, so our fund balance remains relatively the same at this point in time, but that will change, I'm sure, in 2016. Any questions from the board at this point? Any questions? All right.
Looks pretty good.
Yeah. All right, if there's no questions on that, I think we got everything checked off our list.
That's all we have for today.
Take a motion or a...
Make a motion to recess to
Papa George.
Papa George's for a luncheon meeting.
Second.
Got first and second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you, everybody.
Yep.